Hi everyone, welcome to this episode. In this episode, I'm going to show you a game between myself and well known Tamil Nadu Grandmaster Deepan Chakravarthy. Deepan is a very nice person and a capable chess player. This game happened around 12 years back in an international Grandmaster tournament. I was having white pieces and I started with my usual move pawn e4. Deepan is a Sicilian player, so without much thinking he played Sicilian defense. I decided not to play any main line because he is a very capable Sicilian player, overall a very good player, and in Sicilian a much stronger player. So I decided to play Wings Gambit against him, that is pawn b4. The move looks very risky, sacrificing a pawn, and it's not clear whether white will get sufficient compensation for that sacrificed pawn or not. But let me tell you, it's an underestimated move. Many people consider this to be a bad idea. But if we prepare it properly, Wings Gambit is certainly a playable opening in the hands of a player who can manage complications, who is attacking in nature and ready to play double-digit positions. So once I played pawn b4, black has options. I can capture on b4 or simply play, say, pawn b6 or pawn d6, declaring the gambit. But why not capture the pawn? So he took pawn b4. I played pawn a3. This is the way to continue this position. Black should not take on a3 immediately, because once I capture back on a3 with either the knight or the bishop, I will have a very good lead in development. In this given position, black has two main moves. Pawn d5, which is not played in this game, is a major alternative to the move played in the game, that is pawn e5. Pawn e5 also makes complete sense. I played knight f3 and Deepan's move is knight c6. Now in this position, bishop c4 looks very natural, so this is the move I choose. Black has options. nf6 is certainly playable. This position resembles some Goya-Copiano variations in Sicilian setting. But black has to deal with ng5 in this case. Of course, he can play d5, but again after e into d5, things are not so simple. So after bishop c4, Deepan thought a little bit and decided to go for solid move bishop e7, which is of course solid one, but doesn't challenge Wings Gambit. The other playable move was bishop c4 with a similar position. So once he played bishop e7, I played a into b4. This is the right time to take on b4 because black has to spend a move in recapturing the pawn. He captured it and I played pawn c3. Now the bishop has to find a proper square. e7 is a wrong square because queen b3 means serious problems for black. There is no proper way to defend f7 pawn. ns6 is possible, but when I play d4, say, then he should be very careful. Or say it's a bad position for black. For example, castling means bishop into h6 with an advantage. So here, in this position, bishop cannot go to e7. Bishop c5 is obviously a mistake because of pawn d4. He played the rightmost move, bishop d6. Temporarily it blocks this pawn, but later this bishop can be brought into play, maybe bishop c7, pawn d6 this way. It's my turn. I played queen b3, immediately attacking f7 pawn, and he played queen e7. This is why bishop should not go to e7. Queen needs that square. I castled. It is the rightmost move in this position. Black played nf6. I went with pawn d4. Black has to castle quickly, otherwise he will land in some sort of trouble. Here I thought a little bit. I think I had prepared this much in my pre-game session. Here I decided to play bishop g5. The engine recommends nbd2 here. Not an attacking move, but it has got its own plus points. Engine doesn't like bg5 that much, but when we prod further, bg5 is perfectly playable. We'll get to know. Black played pawn h6. Instead of pawn h6, e into d4 is an interesting variation. Say c into d4. Now black will sacrifice a knight here. I capture here and queen e5. Now many white things are under attack. First of all, queen into h2 mate is there. Queen into d4 threat is there. Queen into g5 threat is there. And if I play knight f3 defending against those three threats, he can capture the a1 queen. I mean a1 rook. But in this position, nf3 is very much good for white. I mean perfectly okay for white, because after queen into a1, nc3, white has serious compensation. For example, queen a3 is met with pawn e5 with probably an equal position, but I feel white is slightly better here. So e into d4 would be too much for black to digest, since development is not so good. So he correctly played h6. My intention is not to capture on f6, but to keep that pressure on with bishop h4. I am ready to face pawn g5. If any pawn g5, anytime, I will probably go to g3 square, so that black's king side gets weakened. Or on pawn g5, knight into g5 sacrifice is perfectly possible in many situations. So playing g5 here would be incorrect. For example, this position g5 won't be correct. First of all, I can simply play bishop g3. No need to sacrifice too much. I already given up one pawn for the sake of development. Now n into e4 cannot be taken because of queen c2 wins the position, because after n into g3, f5 is an illegal move, not playable because of that open check. So in case of n into g3, I will give this check first. King h8 first. I simply capture this with check. King g8 first. Now I take this here. This is totally winning for white. So in this position, pawn g5 would be very risky, maybe a mistake for black. Against pawn g5, knight into g5 also looks very strong. I have checked this game with engines, so engines are okay with knight into g5 also. So Deepan goes with a prudent move, bishop c7. Basic idea is to play pawn d6 and then release this bishop somewhere here, many squares. It also prepares knight a5. So I should be dealing with both these moves, both these possible ideas from black. Now I should decide how to continue this position. I should simply develop my pieces, and nbd2 is the right method. NF5 is not going to work. I can simply sacrifice here and get some extra material this way. So Deepan prudently goes for pawn d6. Now knight f5 is a positional threat. I decide to play bishop t5 since knight into d5 is not possible. It also stops knight f5 idea. Deepan went with pawn g5. Now g5 is playable and into g5 sacrifice is not so correct. And there is no need to sacrifice like that. Bishop g3 is sufficient. Black's kingside weakness will tell later. Now Deepan goes for a combination. Normal continuation, normal development with this bishop will not work immediately because b7 pawn is hanging. And rook b8 means he has to think about a7 pawn later. So he took some time here and went for a combination. Even I was thinking about the same continuation, but that line is playable for me. So he went with knight a5. Queen b4 is the correct move. Now I am threatening both rook into a5 as well as d into e5. When I capture d into e5, I cannot capture back with d into e5 because queen into e7 is hanging. But his idea is to capture here now. I will capture. Now knight on a5 is dropped here. But he would like to counter attack on this side of the board. This is simply met with rook f1, bringing the rook into play. Now not only I am threatening to capture on e4, but I am also threatening to capture on a5. Deepan's combination is f5, the rightmost move. All these moves are accepted by engines when we checked the game with the engine. Even the Stockfish 17, the latest one. All these moves are decent moves according to engine. And it even agrees with next move of Deepan. I took on a5. Anyway, as of now we cannot take on f3 because of the pin. Deepan's continuation is queen d8. This is the culmination of his combination. He is threatening to capture on f3, he is threatening to capture on a5. And maybe he would also like to play pawn f4 at some moment to drop the bishop. Rightmost continuation for white is nc4. He has to take on a5. I took on a5. Now e into f3 means I will take bishop into d6 with some advantage. So the right continuation for him would be, in this position, instead of taking the knight, better capture the bishop on g3 because after f4 it's dropped. This he played. I took on e4. Engine thinks nd2 is stronger, but we cannot play like engine in every turn. So rook into e4 is a human move. This position is perfectly fine for white. Black took on g3. I took on g3 with h pawn. This is the position we both were aiming for. According to me, this position is playable because black's king side looks very weak. F pawn is gone. G pawn and h pawn have already moved forward. So if I bring some of my pieces towards his king side, his king will be in serious problems. And I also have a plan of c4, c5. And another plan of mine will be to attack this d6 weak pawn. And as of now, I have a knight and a pawn for the rook. So basically only 1 point less material wise. But black's development is far from over. So white has certain good points here. Deepan went with queen f6. The idea is to play g4 at some moment. Immediately if he plays g4, I will play rook f4, then only move the knight on f3. So g4 immediately is not a threat. So I decided to play nc4 here, which is a mistake. The idea is to force black to play rook d8 and make his rook passive, and then now maybe nf d2. Idea is to move this rook and bring this knight here to e4, which attacks the d6 pawn further. So I played nc4, but nc4 is a mistake because it allows black pieces to become active if he plays a5. Playing a5 is not easy because that pawn is a passed pawn, so giving that pawn free like this doesn't make much sense until we see that it activates black's forces, and black has got bishop h3 powerful move here. Now white's queen is tied up with the defense of a5 knight, and now black is threatening to play bishop into g2. And actually black is better. Black may not be winning, but black is better here. But finding this over the board is not easy. He missed it. So when I played knight c4, he missed playing a5. He didn't play rook d8 because the position will become quite passive. I mean, rook will go passive. He rather went for pawn b6, sacrificing the d6 pawn. This is the mistake, because I can simply take the d6 pawn and get a good position. Just coming back to moves, what else should have been played instead of nc4 if you analyze further? c4 is the most logical way. I saw c4, but I thought nc4 is stronger. But once nc4 was played, black has got that powerful freeing move on a5, which I missed. But if I had played c4 instead of nc4, the position is perfectly fine for white. Maybe practically, I mean theoretically equal. Practically I feel maybe I have got something here. Okay, I played anyway nc4 and he played pawn b6. The idea is to free this bishop by playing pawn to b6. But giving d6 pawn was not so correct here because this pawn becomes a passed pawn. Anyway, he played pawn b6. I took on d6. Here Deepan played pawn a5, which is his idea. But queen a3 is simple. So the queen temporarily black gets the black's passed pawn on a5 and keeps the knight on d6 defended. Deepan completed his development with bishop d7. Now I have to devise some plan. Maybe c4 is playable, but I thought rook e2 is better. I am freeing this knight on f3 because now f2 is protected, and if the knight comes to e5, it will be overwhelming position for white. So Deepan played bishop g4, which I had seen, and my reply is c4. It's basically a pawn sacrifice to get into black's king's position. He has to capture on f3. I first played rook e6 with bishop no longer on that diagonal. E6 square is accessible for the rook, and using the e6 square I can get into black's king's position. Queen into d4 is forced, and now I took that bishop back. This position is already better for white. Black's best chance was playing rook f6 and trying to exchange it off, but even in that case, So I will capture here, he captures here, I play an e4 and maybe then I play pawn d6 and black has problems. Anyway, he decided not to play rook f6. He tried pawn a4 idea. We'll get to know what is his idea. I can capture on h6, but now black has got that rook f6 defensive move again. And I found a better continuation for myself, that is knight e4, which simply stops any rook f6 ideas. Also transfers the knight to the black's king side, which is quite weak. Deepan continued with queen d1 check, king g2, queen b3. This was his plan. If I don't exchange the queens, f3 will be going with check. And exchange the queens, out of question, black will be better. I played queen a1. Let him capture on f3. That is just a pawn. Even if it goes with check, he's not getting anything else further. Meanwhile, my queen on a1 is controlling crucial squares on the king side from a distance. And once I get in that rook into h6, queen will be moving to h8 with some strong attack. Black captured on f3, king g1 is a simple move. Now white has various threats, starting with rook into h6. Rook g6 is also a very strong threat, followed by queen g7. And there is no satisfactory defense. Deepan played queen f5 to cover that g6 square. Queen f5, it looks like also stopped the rook from capturing on h6 because e4 knight is hanging. But with black's king so much weak, we can easily sacrifice this knight. So I captured on h6. If he captures on e4, actually he thought for some time and resigned the game, because white's threat of queen h8 is very difficult to meet. And capturing on e4 means I will play queen h8 check, forced, rook f6 check, king e7 forced. King e8 means f8 rook is going with check. King e7 means I have to simply play this one intermediate move, queen g7 check, and now it's completely winning for white. For example, king d8 means rook into f8 check is winning. Of course, rook d6 check will probably lead to some sort of mate. It's mate, say king c8, queen d7 check, king b8, rook into b6 mate. So this position is completely winning after rook into h6. e4 knight cannot be taken, and it's not possible to stop the attack on h8 square. So Deepan gave up. This game proves that it's perfectly possible to play Wings Gambit. I have played Wings Gambit with so many players, so many IMs and GMs, even with 2-7 players. And every time I have got some playable position. So if someone is interested in playing Wings Gambit, they should certainly try. It is an underestimated opening, or it is considered as risky, but if it's prepared well, if it is certainly playable. Okay, anyway, thank you for watching this game. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, and see you next time. Thanks.